The Foss Waterway has come a long way since the industrialization of the 20th century. Environmental activism has played a big role in addressing so much pollution that the EPA designated the waterway and the rest of Commencement Bay as a Superfund site nearly 40 years ago. As Northwest Now contributor Steve Kiggins tells us, a group called Communities for a Healthy Bay has been doing some science, promoting cleanups, and monitoring the bay's health ever since.
Tacoma has provided the foothold for this to come back, and now this is a thriving place.
A slow cruise through Tacoma's Foss Waterway shows a neighborhood reborn.
But this boat is notorious for causing pollution in different parts of the Puget Sound.
Melissa Malott, executive director of Communities for a Healthy Bay, says the nonprofit tracks polluters and fights to keep the South Sound safe for everyone.
I believe that a community is only as healthy as the water and air that it breathes.
More than 3 decades ago, Communities for a Healthy Bay began its crusade for environmental justice. Back then, the Foss Waterway was just one of several locations across Commencement Bay dominated by heavy industry and highly polluted.
And I've seen pictures, and it is pretty gruesome to think about, just this waterway being dead.
More pollution came from the former Asarco smelter in Ruston. For decades, it pumped toxins into Puget Sound and the air. The Washington State Department of Ecology predicts the arsenic plume reached from Seattle to Olympia. The smelter site and Tacoma's waterfront were both declared as Superfund sites.
These waterways had 8 nationally significant contaminated sites.
Puyallup Indians lived here for thousands of years. Yet 100 years after rail came into Tacoma, we were declared a Superfund site. We managed to destroy this pristine environment in a little bit less than 100 years.
In late 2022, the city of Tacoma released a documentary called Turning the Tide. It chronicled the ecological destruction and the years of cleanup that led to residential and recreational development along Foss Waterway and the return of wildlife once choked out by pollution.
Contaminated sites in Tacoma.
In mid-April, Communities for a Healthy Bay joined other regional environmental nonprofits for a webinar teaching the public how to voice their concern with officials planning for cleanups of toxic properties across the state.
This styrofoam breaks off so easily and just looks like the perfect little fish egg or something very tasty protein source for a fish.
In many areas, pollution remains where industry collapsed, and marginalized communities continue to bear the brunt with lower than average lifespans compared to their peers. Despite significant environmental improvement across Commencement Bay, Malott says the work for the nonprofit is far from over.
Keep moving the ball forward, keep pushing for better policies to protect these waters, and fight climate change and also help the community adapt to climate change in a way that is going to continue to protect these waters and protect the people who depend on the waters.
In Tacoma, Steve Kiggins, Northwest Now.
To see our full discussion about many of the efforts to protect and improve Puget Sound, be sure to look in the Northwest Now digital section of kbtc.org. Northwest Now airs Friday nights at 7:30 right here on KBTC, and be sure to look for more digital stories like this one by following us on Facebook and Twitter at Northwest Now.